You know what, folks? Welcome to Phoenix Business Exchange Bell's Corners edition, April 20th. I think spring's almost done, and these are important things. Get out there, do the gardening, maybe swap out the tires in the car, go from the winters to the seasonals, all seasons, all that good stuff. And to help us get going here, I'm going to share some information about Phoenix Business Exchange. You're more than welcome to come on into the group. We appreciate visitors as well as folks that have that want to connect with us on other fronts. So I'm just going to hit the share button and share a screen, and it's the pbex.ca website, pbex.ca. And hey, member of the week is Dr. Shane Bayless. Shane will help. Yeah, if you've stretched your body a little too much and you're going, "Oh my gosh, what was I thinking?" or you did parkour unintendedly, he's there to help you kind of reset yourself and get yourself back in order. So reach out to Shane. His e-card is here. Many different ways to reach out to him, or you can watch the video about what Shane offers for different services, and he's located in the Canada area. To get to us, click here on the red button. Monday morning, 8 to 9 Eastern, Bell's Corners group. And we also have a group that meets on Wednesdays and on Thursdays. So Wednesdays is the East End and then the South End group on Thursdays. And we have an after hours meeting on the 28th. So people can come in on the 28th. And if you're a Phoenix member, it's about staying accountable to your goals. And Penny Lee Prevost hosts that upcoming member events. And so this is a reminder to the members, let Kat know what's going on, and you can pipe it in here and get it propagated. Canada Growth Network is meeting on Monday. That would be today at 1 p.m. And in fact, Mr. Carl Richards is presenting at that group, and you're more than welcome to come in. It's free to attend. 1 p.m. Eastern. East Tradewinds is the other group that's meeting on Tuesday mornings, 8 to 9, free to attend. And we have different guests coming in that around the globe, across Canada, and more information who's speaking there. East End is meeting this Wednesday. Now, there's a slight change from the Wednesday from above. This one is in person. We meet at 7:30 a.m. at Hive. That's located at 1745 Courtwood. And there's a bistro there. Get a really good breakfast for about $12 something. And or you can just pipe in through Zoom. And South End is going to be doing the same thing, except at the River Lounge, located off of Prince of Wales. And it's at 7:30 on April 30th, the following week. QR directory for all members. You hear somebody talking today, you see them, and you go, I want more information about that person. Click here, and you can drill in and you can find out the different ways to contact them. E-cards, those are the QR codes. You see a QR code over my shoulder. That is a means of either scanning it, makes it easier for people to find you. That's the whole purpose behind it. You can either get the email link, the phone number, whatever means, plus other information about the person you're seeking. Amount of business done between members since 2016 is over $5 million worth of business. And that's an incredible sum of money just between businesses. And year to date, we're at 18,000, close to $20,000 worth of business just between members. So sometimes we will refer people to each other, or we will refer people from outside. That does include the external people that we've connected with. Okay. And with that said, I'm going to swing over to a educational minute with the dashing dash cam Sam man.
Thank you, Bernie. Dashing dash cam Sam. I'll have to add that to my repertoire. Good morning, everyone. Let's see. Let's talk about. Well, I'm going to try and stay away from cars today. I'm just going to talk about business wise. One thing I would recommend doing, and I've been doing, is following up with your previous customers. Um, you can do it by email, but what I do is I do it by text message, and then I follow up with a phone call. What has transpired for me is that a lot of my customers, especially this time of year, I do a lot of tire rotations and spring tires put on. And that has brought me a lot of business, not only from the people that I contact, but they also, at that time, they're talking about me or talking about my business, and I get other referrals. And for instance, was 2 weeks ago, I sent out my text messages and my phone calls. And one of my customers said, "Well, our son is going to be in town and he needs brake work done on his car. Would you be interested?" And I said, "Sure." So they mentioned the make and model, and I saw the car on the weekend and Saturday. I had the brake parts already here, and I installed new rear brakes on the car. It didn't need front brakes, but the rear brakes were ready to go. So that was a job that I hadn't planned upon and only got because I bothered to contact my previous customers. So if this is something that could maybe help you out, uh, go by all means, contact your previous customers, ask them if there's anything you can do for them, and maybe you'll get some extra work like I did. That's it for me. Back to you, Bernie.
Sam, thank you so much and much appreciated. Good words of wisdom. We'll do a round robin of, hey, what's been going on in your week? Any referrals of BAMs? And BAMs are business activity meetings, so meetings between members. And usually referrals will kind of stir from that. And I'm going to swing over to Carolee, and then I will go to Shane. Carolee, go ahead.
Hi, good morning, everybody. No referrals or BAMs for me this past week. With that being said, we're busy as always here at the Canada Food Cupboard this coming weekend. So Saturday, the 25th, we've got our big Bridalwood food drive. So for those of you who are familiar with the Canada community, Bridalwood's one of our south neighborhoods down there in the bottom part of Canada. And we've got a wonderful day planned. The last 2 years, we've collected over 30,000 pounds in one day. So it's a huge undertaking for us. And all those donations are well received. They kind of carry us through into the summer months. So we're looking forward to another successful event this coming Saturday. One thing that I often get asked when I speak to groups that have folks across different areas of Ottawa or even probably different communities within Ontario is how do I find where my local food bank is? Because I know not everybody falls in the Canada Food Cupboard catchment area. So there's a lot of wonderful resources available through the Ottawa Food Bank. Get help. You go in there, you type in your address, and it'll direct you to your local agency. And for those that are outside the Ottawa area, you can go to Feed Ontario, find a food bank. And again, type in your address and it'll kind of direct you to your local food banker program that serves your community. I apologize to Kat. I don't know how to look it up over in your neck of the woods, but I'm sure there's lots of governing agencies internationally doing the same work that we do here in Canada. And you can just go in and put in your address and find your local food bank or agency. So again, thank you for supporting your local food bank and wishing everyone a great week.
Carolee, thank you so much. And folks, here is the live LinkedIn feed for the, you should, okay, sorry. Sorry, Kat gave me a message and I'm playing catch up and you know, the balancing act. I'm gifted till the unicycle falls over. Carolee, thank you so much. We're live on LinkedIn. And so we will swing over now to Dr. Shane Bayless. Go ahead, Shane.
Hey guys, I just want to say I'm honored to be the member of the week here. Thank you, Bernie. Thanks, everybody. Thanks for thinking of me this week. Yeah, it's been great. So moving on, I'm Dr. Shane Bale for ProAction Health and Performance. We do all your aches and pains from, head traumas, concussion-like to our, our musculoskeletal system from hamstring injuries, knee injuries, all that different things, any joint in the body. Anyways, I've been taking a course called neurotraining, and we just keep doing different things to help people heal better. So a lot of people with chronic pain, they often have, they've tried a lot of different things to get things back. One thing a lot of people don't try is sensory things. So what sensory basically means is touch, right? So you're looking at different touch, and they do a thing called 2-point discrimination. So you might notice that you can feel things better with like your hands, obviously, and your feet, rather than if you put like 2 points on your back, they feel like they're further apart. And as you get closer within, say even 4 centimeters or larger, you feel like there's only 1 point touching you because we don't have the discrimination. We don't practice that enough. Now, in those areas of chronic pain, you might have neck chronic pain. You might want to just put 2 points doing that. So 2 toothpicks where you kind of feel that. And you keep making them closer. So you're actually putting focus onto that area, but you're focusing on touch. And so touch is a really great thing, and you can feel that type of thing. But also you can do is regional things. So you can put it into boxes. So in my say in my head here, I can put a box here, and you can look at one, two, or three, or four, and you close your eyes, and someone touches one of those boxes, going, which box am I in? So you're actually recovering on what your brain map is of how your body awareness. You might have heard of mindfulness. Mindfulness is awareness, right? They do like a body scan. That's kind of mindfulness. That's body awareness. That's going your sensory system. So you're really doing that. And often you can even do essential oils where you put like a cooling sensation, or you can do a cinnamon, like a heat one, which also activates those sensory firing. It really helps with chronic pain. Anyway, hopefully that helps for anyone that has chronic pain, or if you want to learn more, let me know. I'm Dr. Shane Bales, Pro Action Health and Performance. We see results, so should you. And Tony, it feels so good. Yeah.
Jane, thank you so much. And here is the link for Carl's presentation today at Canada Growth Network. And I'm going to swing over to Jacqueline, and then I will go to Sam. Jacqueline, over to you, ma'am.
Well, good morning, everyone. I know it's a sunshiny day right now, and I loved to take a moment when I opened my door. I did take my breath in through the nose. I lifted my shoulders. I took them back. I released them down. And I thought, welcome to a real spring day. And I think that's what my clients are saying too, as they are opening their doors and thinking, I have to have my car taken care of. Really, I should call that guy Sam that Jacqueline suggested. Or maybe I've got some extra food and I'd really love to make a donation to the food bank, because it's possible for us as a family. It's possible for me as an individual. When I open that door, I know there's so much more coming in, and that allows me to have so much more offerings to release. When you're looking to think about, now the summer's coming, maybe I need to do some outdoor stuff like a new deck. Oh my gosh, maybe the stairs going down to my grass needs some work. Maybe, don't do a maybe. What you want to do is contact me. You want to contact your mortgage honey when you're looking for mortgage strategies for your mortgage money for that reno. Here I am. I'm your mortgage honey. And I'm so looking forward to telling you I had a great BAM with Susan Ebbs with Melaleuca. She offered me the creams for my grandson. My daughter is ecstatic, and she said, I've got to tell them how good this stuff is. And I said, you know what? Everyone wants a testimonial. Like I said, everyone wants a testimonial. Thank you so much. Again, when you're looking for strategies for your mortgage money, you want to contact your mortgage honey. And, oh, sorry, side note, Carolee, I did get to that conference. I don't know if you can see this. The Ottawa Food Security Conference was amazing. So many great speakers who had so much to say about things people don't want to talk about. Splendid. Anyway, ciao for now.
Jacqueline, thank you so much. And just the next one is the reminder for the 22nd of April, being in person at Hive. And Sam, what's happening, good sir?
Thank you again, Bernie. Good morning, everyone. Sam Sturris, ConnectedCars.ca. My contact information is in the chat. I call myself Dashcam Sam because my specialty is installing dash cameras in cars for people. Nice and neat, no wires hanging down. Connected right to the fuse panel, so the parking mode works whether the car is running or a car is off. Also can give recommendations to people. I do not recommend going out and just buying any dash camera that's sitting on a shelf somewhere, because the quality of some of them is just horrible. What you want to do is make sure that the lenses can record especially the license plate of the vehicle, and a lot of them just don't have that quality. So if you need any advice that way, please give me a call. I also do minor repairs, oil changes, brake jobs, and these days I'm doing lots of summer tire installations. And one thing I do with my summer tire installations, I give appointments and I provide a free brake inspection at the same time. Because, well, the tires are off anyway, I might as well do it from there. Uh, let's see here. Things gone on. Well, Q was here on the weekend. One thing I want to talk about when it comes to Q is, it got to be 2 years ago, she came to me and said that place that she had taken her car to told her that she needed brakes. And she came to me with it for a second opinion. And when I saw them, I went, you definitely don't need brakes on your car. That saved her $800. And when she was here on the weekend, she still doesn't need brakes. So, um, but they are wearing down. I told her probably in the fall she'll need brakes on her car, but that saved her $800, and it got to be 2 years ago. So she's been driving ever since on those same brakes. Besides that, I wanted to mention when Shane was here, Shane is online. A couple of years ago, he asked for some recommendations when it came to tires because I don't sell tires. I put them on when they're on rims in the car, but I don't sell them. But if you need some advice, I certainly can provide it. I have some contacts when it comes to tire installations and tire purchases. So don't be afraid to ask. My contact information is in the chat, and I don't mind giving my 2 cents when it comes to places where you can get your tires balanced and installed. That's it for me. Sam Stores, ConnectedCars.ca, today's mobile electronics without the cost of a vehicle, and a heck of a lot more.
Dashcam Sam, thank you. Next prompt is East Trade Winds, and our guest speaker is Doug Brown from CEO Sales Strategies. And he's talking about scaling your business up, what to be mindful of. Kat, over to you, and then Tony. Go ahead, Kat.
Make your next outing one to remember by visiting Felina's Mexican Cantina. With the warmer weather, I'm using a prompt here and it says warmer weather here. So I'm going to go the warmer weather in Ottawa. The patio is now open. The perfect time is to stop by to unwind and enjoy incredible Mexican flavors, delights, and a welcoming atmosphere. They've got fresh tacos, your sizzling favorites, and refreshing drinks. There's something for everyone. So whether you're looking to meet for a casual catch-up, a family meal, or even your next networking meetup for your next BAM, Felina's offers a perfect setting for you to connect and relax. So they're on 742 Bank Street in Ottawa. So bring your colleagues, your friends, your clients, grab a seat on the patio and make the most of the summer weather. Thank you.
Kat, thank you so much. And I'm gonna just click in there and look. There we go. We got the Felinas, and we also have the Podcast Alliance Quarterly Meetup and Mastermind, April 29th, coming up soon. $47 to join. 3 guest speakers, and hey, Tony, what are you up to?
Thank you very much, Bernie. Hi, everybody. Tony Jennis from Higher Self. Those that are watching on Facebook Live. Well, we had a busy weekend. It's amazing. It's only been a week since, and there's been so much going on. I finally finished the updates on our website for all the crystals and the connections and so on, and it looks amazing. We have our sound bath coming up on Wednesday night, and it's on the same day that I'll be at Hive, so I'll be seeing people there for that. But this one's going to be a special segment for our sound bath because we just got new gongs. For me, it's a big deal. Just got them custom made from Italy. It took about 5 months to get here, and I'm just tickled pink. The first thing I did was bang on my gongs for all day. I know there's a song about that Bernie reminds me of, and it just has an incredible sound. Sometimes I'll go through 100 gongs and nothing really resonates, and then you hear one. It's like a special sound. It's just like when you look into your soulmate's eyes. He says, "Oh, I know I've seen you before, but this is the first time we've met." So yeah, it's great when you can connect that way, and it has a special thing but it's very transformative in that way. And speaking of the sound bath, I want to thank Jacqueline Richards so much for the little video that you did to telling a little bit about that particular experience. So thank you so much for that, Jacqueline. And we just a quick segue. You have our crystal for this week isn't actually a crystal; it's wood. This one is called ebony. It's an African wood that's quite strong, and it usually men buy these, and it's all about stability. It's all about giving inner strength. It's control, balance. It has so many things into it. It also helps with anti-inflammatory stuff, and so it's really good for stability. If you lose something in your life, like a pet or a truck. If you lose that in an accident, there's always that remorse for guys. And so something like this is really good, and it usually takes about 3 to 4 days to wear it before it starts to take effect. But ebony is an amazing wood, and we have it in all sizes. And for guys that have the big wrist, we can custom make it so that it fits. Tony Jennis from Higher Self. We are here to raise your spirits.
Yeah, thank you so much. Next quick prompt is, you know what? Cat Herd is a great asset for the Phoenix membership. If you have something going on, let her know. She'll post it out through all the social media channels that are out there that we have access to. So just to give you a heads up on that. And oh, by the way, Carolee, your paper bag has arrived in my house because I live in Bridlewood, and so working on a food solution right there. I don't know if it's going to answer all your issues in life, but hey, I'll try. Um, who am I? I'm Bernie, and I have a podcast called Knack for Business. It's a good way for business B2B introductions or B2C introductions. It's a good way to get messages out there, and
Hello.
also involved in these trade winds and Canada Growth Network. And what you'll find is a lot of times that some of the people that are speaking in the podcast also get to present at these events because you know what, the message is good, it's a fit, and we go from there. We also have a blog post that's out there called blog.knackforbusiness.com. And that's a good way to see what's going on in all these different areas, who's been presenting. You either can read about it, you can click right into the YouTube presentation and or the podcast segment of it. And what has been going on this week? I don't think I've been up to anything too naughty or nice just yet. Did connected with some people, and and Jacqueline, it's never a problem to represent you. It's super easy. I don't have the same charm and grace as you do, though. So, and nor the bendability. Me and not being a yoga, no, not yet. No, if it happens, it's usually quite by accident. And we're going to swing the mic over to Mr. Eric Sonego because he is the presenter today. Eric, I muted your mic there for a few seconds, and but you're optimized to go otherwise.
Thank you, Bernie. I lose track of time in tax season, but I'm married to someone who takes me out of the office to do things. And one of the things I did this weekend is deliver bags because I live in Bridlewood, to about 300 houses. So, and next weekend I'll be collecting bags from most of those 300 houses, and we'll be taking them to the Eva James parking lot. And I have to be finished my tax season by the time I do that. So that's what I've done this weekend. Another thing that I did last week, I finally got the Tax Court of Canada to give us a pronouncement and plan for a hearing for a former member of Phoenix. We know it because it's people that we go for the New Year's Eve party. And and this is a problem that dates back to 2014. So at first the tax court did not want to hear it because it was too long ago. I had to go through appeal channels to have an extension. Then they insisted that I do it electronically, which is not what the law requires. The law requires me to put a pack, to print something and deliver it to them, but I had to do it electronically. I lost so much patience with them that I passed them on to Caroline, and I said, I don't want to speak to the tax court again. You speak to them. So, but finally they listened, and we are seeing the light at the end of the tunnel. there's the good news about me speaking in tax season is that I can speak on what I did last Friday, or what I did the day before, or what I did the day before, or the day before, and it would make it would make a 10-minute presentation quite easy. Or you get someone who's brain dead, giving it to you because I have been working, for the last 6 weeks on very complicated tax returns. People who were very wealthy and died, and now I have to do a final return and an estate, and the people who have inherited are not all together there, and there is fights between the daughter and the son. The daughter lives in Ottawa. The son lives in British Columbia. So, and that I quoted $4,000 to do that return, to do a personal tax return. And you know what? My time is already gone by it. So I've worked overall 4.5 days on it. That's how complicated it is. So but like I said to you, in many occasions, accountants no longer do easy taxes. We do complicated taxes, complicated people, or we do complicated people with easy taxes. So we can divide our clients between difficult clients that with easygoing people, or easy taxes with difficult clients. One of the you fall into one of those two. So it's not something that
Maybe.
the software can solve, that you can buy at Staples can solve for taxes. It doesn't. And we do lots of people who live or work in Quebec, so we have to do Quebec tax returns as well. So and talking to Quebec is like a Kafkaesque experience. You get lost in the maze of talking to them. So, but that's another presentation. I like to share my screen. Let's see, where is it?
Bottom of the box, the share button.
I'm looking for it.
Look
Oh,
at the
there it is.
bottom of. And you're sharing your address
Yes.
and your e-card.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you see my PowerPoint?
No, we
Nope.
see your Word document.
No, just a Word document, and I think your next one might be your pin, so be careful.
You might have to reshare and re-aim it towards your PowerPoint.
Okay. Thick. How's that?
Stand by, loading.
Yeah, loading.
There you go.
Yay!
All right. So taxation and business depends on how you're organized as a business, and that will trigger the type of tax you will be paying or how you will be filing your taxes. If you are self-employed and you report through your personal tax return, in other words, you have a non-incorporated business, you will certainly be looked at differently and taxed differently than a corporation. The willingness of the tax department to live with your information sometimes depends on how you are organized. They will give the benefit of the doubt to an incorporated business, and they will not give the benefit of the doubt to a non-incorporated business. they will assign an experienced assessor for an incorporated business, and they get some moron to talk to you for a non-incorporated business who doesn't know anything about tax. So most of the problems we have with the tax department usually come from people who are not incorporated, from self-employed people. Now, if you have a very simple business, I would, like you are selling Melaleuca, or you are, you are selling, products out of your own house, and you're the only one there. That they can measure that properly. But if you're not incorporated and you have employees and you have contractors and you have all of that kind of stuff, first of all, you need to have your head examined, number one. And number two, they look at you like you must be hiding something. That's why you're not incorporated. And a lot of the times, the type of officer you get to review you is different depending on your way that you're organized. So this will attract different type of people from CRA. A sole proprietorship attacks the most junior person, the most junior level. A partnership will get you people who compare you with other people, called partners. And a corporation will get someone who actually has a measure on how to deal with you. So when they deal with a corporation, they use statistics, and they use a much better way of interpreting your data. The good news is that if you report based on some sort of system, they tend to live with you much easier than if you don't report with the system. And what I mean by that is that if your sales are $300,000 a year, and your expenses are this year your expenses are $150,000, and next year they're $75,000, and the year after that they're $150,000, they're certainly going to look at your tax return. They're certainly going to review your financial statements, because expenses are predicated by the level of sales you have, especially direct expenses. And if your gross profit changes over time, you better have a good excuse for it. They also look at your GST returns and your corporate tax returns. So when I do a year end, and I do a financial statement, I make sure that I'm looking at the GST returns that were filed already. And if we say for GST that your sales are $700,000, I have to see in your financial statement $700,000. If I don't, I have to have a reason why they're not there. So because that's one of the things they're going to look at. A lot of the work we do are people who were not dealing with accountants, who filed their tax returns, and then the system says, sends a letter saying, how come your sales for GST are not the same as your sales that you file for your income taxes? And usually that's how we get clients. They come to us with that kind of bewildered look, and how would I know my GST? Why are they looking at my GST? As they're two different things, right? So that's something that is something that people get confused over. In the last 10 years, there's been a big fight over this that I'm talking about you here within the policy section of CRA. The government wants to, in their words, they want to level the playing field. And they did that starting in 2015 by making sure that the benefit that they give to small business through the small business deduction, which allows your net income to be taxed at 12.5%, as opposed to the personal tax rates. The benefits that they give a Canadian controlled private corporation, they look at it and they try to chip on that so that there's no benefit to the owner. And the first thing they did in 2015 is stop the idea of your spouse working in your company unless your spouse is actually working in your company and is being paid accordingly. So, if your spouse is does the vacuuming and the cleaning of the office, and you pay them $300,000, that is something that the government will say, you're not paying your wife, you are splitting income. And one of the professions that made a travesty of this is the medical profession. The medical profession incorporated 20 years ago and then used their spouse as a way of taking money out of the business. And in 2015, that stopped, and they come up with a tax called tax on split income, which in accounting we call TOSI. Okay, so TOSI, tax on split income, is the disqualifying of spouse and children from expenses of the corporation unless they are working and they can prove that they're working at the same rate as anybody else for the same amount. So the next thing that happened is that the expenses on how you expense out of your business, those expenses are looked upon as being, I would say, right to the penny. Because what artificial intelligence is doing with CRA is that they can take your if they come to audit you, they take your bank statements, they feed it into their system, and they are right to the penny. Now, if you go to an accountant, they're going to be right to the penny anyways, because we count to the penny. But if you don't go to an accountant, you might have trouble with this. It's something that I would think it's something that we'll be seeing in 2027 and 2028. Right now, their AI is being trained. But if you are running a company now, you better use AI to do your data input, because that's the only thing that can give you right to the penny. No. So the fight is how we get down to taxable income. The owner wants to get down to taxable income, very, very far away from sales. In other words, my sales were up at the top of the page, and after all of these expenses, I have taxable income. And the tax department wants to bring that line up a little bit and take expenses out of taxable income. Now, there's conventional stuff that they would take out. For instance, if you buy a computer, you cannot expense it out. If you buy a car, you cannot expense it out, all at once. You have to use the capital cost allowance, which means you have to divide it over time on how you spend it. And if you have meals, when you do your taxes, you only get half of the meals. And if you have entertainment and promotion expenses, it better not be to entertain you. It better be to entertain someone who is related to your income, to your sales. Okay, so you cannot just take a friend out to dinner. You have to take a friend out to dinner that is also your customer. So the fight has already been there. The thing that the thing that makes them stop at CRA is your meals and your car. And most people, if you are not in a sales business, if you're not Kelly and you're in real estate, or you are, or you're in the mortgage business and you have clients all over the place. If you're not that person, and you are working out of your office, you better have 30 or less than 30% car use, because anything else is going to be attractive to the government. If you have a sales business, you better have a log. So if Kelly doesn't have a log for her travel, she will depend on what the government says she should have as a log. And now, in 2026, it's pretty easy to have a log, because I can go into my car and I can say to my car, it's business, and automatically that trip is logged. Or I can, and when I don't say it's business, it assumes it's personal. And so there's software to do that, free almost. So the other fight, and continuing with that, the other part that we fight with the government with is home-based businesses and how they write off their expenses, their home expenses. So there is a convention at CRA that your business at home cannot be more than 20% of your cost for running the house. But that comes from the municipal government position, that if you have more than 20% use of your business as an expense, you change the character of the property from residential to commercial. So CRA, for the last 50 years has been perched on that 20% or less. So if you have more than 20%, take a tape measure and measure. And the people who are going to have more than 20% are people who live in very small houses and have a large imprint in the business. Because if you have a 750 feet, apartment, and you have one bedroom, you have 50%. But if you have a 4-bedroom house and you have one bedroom, you have 20%. So that's always been a way for them to attack your data. So if you're going to declare home office expenses, you better have a tape measure, and you better think about everything else you have in the house that is business. Like if your employees in your kitchen, if people come to visit you in your driveway, if your garage has inventory in it, then you would enlarge that 20% over to a 30 or 40% business. But you have to document it properly. We do very few reviews on home-based expenses. They usually do not act that strong, unless if they act strong, we tell the client to redo their taxes, because this is something that the CRA allows you to use, because in reality you can only write those expenses after profit. So if your profit is, I would say, let's say $25,000, and your home expenses are $50,000, you can only write off $25,000. The other $30,000, you leave it for the future years to come. So you have a pool of home office expenses that you can use, over time, if you can use them this year. And so they know that you can only wipe out your profit to zero. You cannot go below zero. So if your sales are $35,000 a year, and your home office expenses wipe out the sales, and they're within a 20% rate, they'll leave you alone. If your sales are $10,000 a year, and your home office expenses are still 20%, they leave you alone. But they no longer think of you as a business. They think of you as a hobby. So a 10,000 a year business, unless it's, you know, a business that the first year is small and then after that they go into a regular behavior of, you know, let's say the first year was only 2 months and it was $10,000, and then the second year is $50,000 in business in sales. You know, unless that happens, it's not it's something that the CRA will look at it and say, well, you're really not in business, you're just a hobby business. And if you classify as a hobby business, you better go and talk to a lawyer, because a hobby business doesn't have the same expenses as a regular business have. So the good thing about it is that most people do not report the $10,000 a year business, and you know, unless or by the time they report that they have a $10,000 a year, they're already working in the next year, and the next year is already $30,000 or $40,000 by June. So if that's the case and they see it in your GST returns, they leave you alone. They just realize that you have an uncommon first year. So, you know, it's sometimes difficult to know how the government is going to interpret you, and they tend to fall into categories that are predetermined ahead of time. If you're a non-resident, and a non-resident can be someone who decides they're single or they get divorced, they have a property, one of them inherits the property, they rent the property, they stay in Canada for 2 or 3 years, and then they leave, they get married to someone else, and they live somewhere else. And the property still stays on a rental basis. That changes from being a rental property to being a non-resident rental property. And your tenant has to give the government 25% of the rents on a monthly basis, and it forces you to declare a tax return in Canada, so you can claim back some of that 25% that your tenant paid the government. But the officers that they have for non-resident are divided into two categories. The management is really knowledgeable on tax. The people who talk to you, you know, especially out of the Ottawa office, don't know anything whatsoever about income, tax, or anything else. They follow rules that they set themselves, and they say how much the taxes was worth when you bought it, you know, and you have to prove that it wasn't that much. And I keep arguing with people who are 25 years old, who have never owned property, who still live at home with their parents, and want to tell me about the value of real estate in Ottawa. And that's what you get at the non-resident office in Ottawa. So if you get into those kinds of arguments with them, we need to talk to them. We need to talk to their boss. You know, and I have a nice way of talking to the boss is I never say that the guy's incompetent. I just say to the boss, I think I need to talk to your boss because I have a very specific question that I have to ask him about the client that I have. My client is involved in international stuff, and I want to make sure that you know, that this guy is your officer knows about all of that. So I make him look like the client is dealing on all kinds of stuff, and then when I get to the boss, I force him to look at the form, which is called a T2062, which is where we dispose of the property as a non-resident, and we said to the boss, the cost. I said, how can you go against the real estate statement of 1999 and tell me that the cost was too high? Like I said to the boss, if you hire people that don't know the difference between a real estate and lawyer's statement establishing costs when the guy bought the property, then you are making much more work for us, which we have to bill the client. And then when I give a speech, I'm going to talk about it. When I give a presentation, I'm going to talk about it. I'm going to say you're a bunch of morons here, right? So would you like me to do that? And the the boss will say to me, oh, we're just training, we're just doing this, just resend it and send it to me. So that's how sometimes we have to approach something when you have a non-resident. But what you have to remember is that a non-resident can happen to anybody just when your life changes. When your life changes, when you meet a spouse and you move to New York City and you leave your property here, that's a change that will change your taxes. When you retire from your business and you leave and you do something else, that is something that they will look at. So the transitions in life is what the government looks at. And this weekend I did a transition in life, someone who died, and died a wealthy person. And when you die as a wealthy person and you have inheritors, you have a very difficult tax return to do. Because I have to measure, and in fact, this gives me the creeps, because in August, this person that died called me and she said, and I thought she was healthy when she asked me that. She said, "What's the best time to die?" So I said, "Well, the best time to die would be late in the year in December." So she died in December, and in December the 10th, I get a call from her son saying, my mother died. And I said, "How did she die?" "Well, she had MAID, the medically induced death. So she had that, and she chose the day she was going to die." And I did not talk for a day. I did not talk for a day because, like, I don't like to have life and death statements in my practice. I think I think that the client is good enough to do their own life and death stuff. I just look at what happened, and when I see myself having been the instigator of it, or what I thought was the instigator, I lost I lost a lot of sleep over it. I had to talk to my lawyer. I had to talk to my doctor. I had to talk to their family. I had to go with my wife on long walks, as opposed to short walks with the dog, on long walks. And it's taken me 6 months to be able to accept it and to say, it was her wish. It wasn't something that I promoted. Anyways, that's a very that's a very uh, that's a very personal and problem that happens in practice. Lawyers are much more used to it than accountants are, but it's something that you never know where the question comes from. And it's happened twice to me in my 30 years in practice. It's happened twice. It happened this month, this year, December 2025, and it happened in the 1990s when someone asked me if I could reorganize his business so that I could get, the spouse out of the business because she was a nurse and she didn't want to be taxed, as part of the shareholders of the business. So I reorganized the business. I set up new corporations. I put I took one corporation out. I cleaned it. I put the other one out without the spouse or anything like that. A year later, he's in my office and he said to me, "Well, he said to me, he gave me a $3,000 check, he said, here's your check. He said to me, it's worth $30,000. And I said, well, what do you mean? He said, because the little bitch died, and I didn't want her and I didn't want my other side of the family to get any money from a corporation. And because of your work, she was out. And that from the day after that, I became a totally different accountant. I do not reorganize businesses with spouses in them unless they're in my office, both of them. I do not take people out of the business unless I have a signed document from the person going out that they want to do it, right? All of that I didn't have in 1992. None of that I had. I just followed the client's wishes, and you know sometimes you learn by mistakes, and that was a mistake that I learned by. So, any questions?
Well, Eric, I got to admit, you do leave us with, hey, what could possibly happen that's not boring in an accounting? You found it, and ethical questions like, wow, uh, yeah, no wonder you're a wise soul. Does anybody have questions for Eric? Assuming you're not trying to, not trying to look, pushing the wife or the spouse out of the picture type thing, or over a cliff.
Yeah, like you cannot put yourself in a transaction. You cannot say this person is just like me. You have to divorce yourself and go on the other side of the desk. And you have to be the center person, the person who works for the business and not for the individuals in the business.
Right.
That's that. But I understand that when you divide property, things happen. People come out of the woodwork. Like one of the reasons I do 4 or 5 estates, but on the average they pay like $10,000 a year each. Well, those $10,000 a year that I charge is much more painful to do than $10,000 in tax.
Yeah.
The amount of arguments that I have to solve, the amount of fights that come, the 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 attack on executors that I have to intercede, from the people who were not there, when the guy was alive, it will suddenly appear and think the executor, who was a friend of the guy that was deceased, is in cahoots with who? The lawyer and the accountant,
Oh, wow.
right? So I have that, and when you look at my time that I spend on easy work, like an estate, sometimes it's easy work, but when you look at the time that I had to spend managing that easy work,
Hmm.
it's out of the ballpark. So it's something that we don't do. It's not our regular business. We don't do if you come to my office and you see yellow files, those are estates. So there's not that many yellow files on an ongoing place, but it's difficult because you know the government understand the government will live with someone with a terminal disease, and very, very understandingly. But as soon as it becomes an estate, the people who inherit that estate,
Hmm.
they will be very mercenary.
Hmm. Yeah.
Estates do not have non-refundable tax credits. So if you have $150 of interest income in an estate, that's $35 in tax. If you have $5,000, that's $1,200 in tax.
If you're running an estate, though, wouldn't you have operating expenses? Like,
Yes,
if you're maintaining an estate, like the utilities, et cetera, are those not operating expenses that
yes, but those are isolated within the property that you're running,
okay,
right? If you have
not
a
not
bank account, with interest,
yeah.
and the interest is $1,200, that's $300 in tax. Whereas to you, in your tax return, $1,200 in if that's your only income, and you make $1,200 in interest, you don't have any tax to pay.
Okay. So is that better than to be in a trust at that point? If you're figuring that if the asset's going to survive the decedent?
The use of a trust is so that we bypass the Ontario government view of tax of estate. We get out of probate. Right? So when you have a trust organized before you die, what you're doing is you're taking things out of probate into a non-probate place. And you do that by liquidating your bank accounts, by making sure that there is joint signatures between the one of the benefactors and the person that died, by making sure that there's all of that kind of stuff in there, so that there's no probate. But probate is only it's only 1.5% of the value. So sometimes you have to be able to understand that 1.5% may be something that is worth paying, because it allows the government to bless something, and that allows you to tell someone, oh, this has been already checked by the government, it's already gone through probate, I'm not going to worry about the cost attached to it. That's what the government of Ontario says is cost. That's it. Get out of my office. It allows that kind of behavior from me, for instance. Whereas if there's no probate, we will always be arguing about, the value that was transferred. And the argument will not stop until the first assessment of the estate. And then you bring in CRA with their view on the value of it. And CRA's view, it can be more draconian than any probate could be.
Okay.
Yeah. Now it's morbid to talk about things like this, So it's easier to talk about, Jacqueline's mileage, and how she records her miles, It's easier to talk about, things that are for the living, but sooner or later, a parent is going to die, or you're going to be 90 years old and you have to think about how you're going to transfer your wealth. Sooner or later that happens. And then you have to make sure that the people that you want to take care of are taken care of before the government takes care of themselves. That's where we do estates. Because when someone dies, like this person that I just did, when someone dies, it automatically, everything that she owned gets sold to the estate at fair market value. So it will trigger a capital gain, and it will trigger all kinds of stuff that if not done properly, would have cost hundreds of thousands of dollars in taxes. And that's something that that can be averted with proper legal and accounting help.
Okay. Thanks
Eric,
a lot, Eric.
thank you.
That was informative. It's good.
Just one thing about estates. I became an expert in estates when my parents died. My parents died in 2005, and they both died in the same year. There was an estate done, and they left property. So they left buildings rented to other people. And we thought, well, let's keep them rented. We will collect rents. We will sell them when all of our kids get out of university. One of my sisters and my brother said, no, we have to liquidate. So I said, no problem. I will go to a bank. I will get a mortgage and pay you off on the value on your share of what that is worth. And my sister said something that you only hear in estates. She said to me, that's not fair. And I said to her, I took my calculator you know, and I did present value, future value, and all that kind of stuff. And I said, look, you know, we are giving you what we're going to be banking today. He says, that's not fair because 10 years from now, you're going to sell it and I won't be part of that sales transaction.
Well, she gave that up when she said, let's sell it. I
Right.
mean,
Right.
you're either sitting on the pot or you're not. You know,
Yeah.
pick one lane.
Right. But you will never win that fight in an estate.
Well, hey, Eric, I'm sorry to hear that that was the conversation you had because you know, if your sister has the same smarts as you, that's a boxed in lunch. I'm going to
Because
close this off.
Because we
Go-
act like chimpanzees when we're in an estate.
Well, here's a banana. Keep yourself busy. I'm going to close this off with a quick quote here for the day. This time, like all times, is a very good one if we know what to do with it. That's Ralph Waldo Emerson. So,